Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. I make videos about interview preparation, HR questions, and how I got selected for the major IT companies. If you find this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. So, I recently participated in the Cognizant on-campus drive, and on my campus, it basically came for two profiles. One was the GenC Next, giving 6.7 LPA, and the another was GenC Elevate, giving 4 LPA. Although they conducted just one exam for this, and the process is like if you get good marks or you qualify a certain cutoff, you get shortlisted for the GenC Next interviews, and if you perform like mediocrely, you get selected for the GenC Elevate, and if you do not meet any of the cutoffs, you get rejected and you have to reapply for the other tests for Elevate and GenC Pro, the other profiles offered by Cognizant. So, as for the procedure, it is mainly divided into 3 steps. One is the skill-based assessment, second is the technical interview, and third is the HR interview. There's one tip. Cognizant usually uses the Superset portal to get the registrations from the students. So the form on the Superset portal is quite long, like it requires a lot of certifications, a lot of candidates details. So there's one advice: don't be lazy in filling those. Try to complete more than 95% of your profile, because one thing that happened at my campus, like people who were not able to fill it completely or were not able to provide the certifications got rejected even before the skill-based assessment. Like their portal was not verified by the college, and they simply got rejected. Okay, so for the skill-based assessment, it's a 3-hour long examination which consists of mainly 2 sections. First is the MCQ and second is the coding challenge. As for the MCQs, it's a 40-minute section consisting of 20 to 25 questions, and the level was moderate. As for the coding challenge, it consists of 5 to 6 questions, usually 6 only, and the time given was 140 minutes. The level was moderate to difficult. Cognizant chose the middle platform for this examination in my year. Okay, so for the MCQs, the topics mainly are like from DSA, SQL, Web UI, like the basic questions like about arrays, strings, linked lists, or what are joins and triggers and views. And as for Web UI, like about CSS or the JavaScript that were covered in our engineering syllabus, all those questions. So if you want to practice them, you can go to the GFG platform and you can practice the MCQs from there. I think the level was quite moderate. It was not very difficult to do if you have a good amount of knowledge about these things. As for the coding challenges, it consists of 6 questions. The first 4 were programming questions and the last 2 are the SQL questions. In the first 4, the first is quite easy, and the second is medium level. The third and the fourth are from competitive coding. As for the 5th and 6th question, they are about databases, like the SQL basic questions using joins or maybe creating triggers, all of that stuff. Okay, so for the easy question, mostly the topics were from arrays, like the searching, sorting, or strings. I won't say that the questions were like they were direct questions, like question did not directly ask you to write the bubble sort or the insertion sort. It was not that. There was some sort of story given, and you need to figure out like what type of data structure should be used here. So to practice all these things, you can always go to LeetCode and CodeChef. They can provide you a good amount of questions for such examinations. As for the medium level question, it was from linked list or trees, and the difficult questions were from dynamic, or I remember that one question was from graphs also. So they were like moderate to difficult. I won't say that I was able to do all of them and pass all the test cases, but yeah, I managed to attempt 3 out of the 4 questions, and managed to pass all the test cases. As for the 4th question, I managed to pass 1 or 2 test cases. So you can try and attempt all the questions. As for the SQL questions, they were easy. You will be provided with some databases, and you have to join the tables, and you have to make a new table out of it. Questions like those. It only consists of 1 test case, so it's good to go. Okay, so after this skill based examination, I got shortlisted for the Elevate profile. And the Elevate profile and also the Next profile, both of them have a similar procedure and the similar type of interview rounds. So in I had two rounds. One was the technical and second was the HR round. The technical round had one panelist and it lasted for about 40 to 50 minutes. As for the HR round, it also had one panelist and it was hardly for 10 minutes. Okay, so in my technical interview, when I joined the meeting, the guy asked me to introduce myself. He, asked me some basic questions about my CGPA or any backlogs. And he also, asked for my Aadhaar card or my PAN card. He clicked a screenshot of it. So in Cognizant, it's important, like they do the verification. So always, have your important documents handy with you in the interview. Okay, then he first started with the aptitude questions. In Cognizant interviews, I've seen like they try to cover each and every aspect of your domain and not just the programming part. So first he asked me about the aptitude questions and he like shared his screen, and like in the chat section he provided me with 3 questions. They were very normal questions that we have done, like about ages or profit loss or simple interest. So he gave me 1 to 2 minutes to solve each of them, and I shared my answer with them. And if any of your answer does not match, the interviewer is ready to discuss it with you. Okay, then he started with the programming part. He asked me like, why did I choose C++ for my programming? So I mentioned like all the OOPS concept stuff, like how I can, use inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation in it. And C++ is a very easy language, all those, facts about it. Then he asked me like, what are OOPS? I feel like this is the question that has been asked to me in every interview. So knowing about OOPS, if you use C++ or any of the object-oriented programming language, you should be well versed with what OOPS concepts are and like what should be the examples for that. You should practice it. Then he asked me, since polymorphism is like one of the pillars of OOPS, he asked me like, what is polymorphism and its types, and I have to give examples also. One tip, whenever you're explaining any of the technical terms, always try to give some examples. Even if the interviewer is not asking for it, you should always mention it. It shows that you're very thorough with the topic and you know what it is. It just gives a good impression. So I explained the 2 types of polymorphism, the compile time and the runtime. Then he asked me follow-up questions from that, like what is runtime polymorphism and what is compile time. And I mentioned operator overloading as one of the examples. So he asked me to, write a short code for that. So in operator overloading, what I did was I mentioned the usage of the plus symbol. Like plus symbol can be used to add 2 integer type of variables, and it can be used to concatenate if there are 2 strings available, like the data type is string or char. So I wrote the code for both of them and I showed it to him. Then he asked me to write a code to find the maximum and the minimum number present in a given array. He discussed various approaches of finding the maximum and the minimum number in the array, like 2 to 3 approaches. And after we were done with it, then he moved to the next section. He asked me one question from operating systems, that what is multi-threading? Again, a simple, easy question. Then he asked me like, what are asset properties from DBMS? Then we shifted to the project discussion part. He asked me about my projects. I briefly discussed them, like I mentioned the 3-4 projects that I've mentioned in my resume. Then for the latest one, he asked me like what all tech stack I worked on and what was my learnings about in that, and where did I make it, if I was working in a team or I was making it individually, or if I faced any challenges in it. So since my projects were in web development, he asked me a follow-up question, like if I can name any 5 to 6 tags in web development. So I did. Then the interview was almost over. He briefly discussed a little bit more about the project and then asked me if I had any questions from him. One tip, always ask something from the interviewer. Anything about the company or his work experience, anything. Don't just say that I don't have any questions, because it can give a very bad impression. So always show your interest by asking something. Okay, so then 2 to 3 days later, I got my results and I was selected for the HR round. In the HR round, I think it is a mere formality. Since Cognizant was doing a mass recruitment in my college, the HR rounds were very short, and like they just needed to do the little bit of verification for each of the candidates. When I joined the meeting, he asked me to introduce myself, and then he, asked me for my Aadhaar card, my PAN card, and one of my mark sheets, like any of my latest mark sheets, college mark sheets. He clicked a screenshot of them, and he asked me what my overall CGPA is or if I have any backlogs till now. Then, as for a mere formality, he asked me if I know any foreign languages, to which I mentioned yes. Then he asked me like what my efficiency is in speaking and reading and writing that particular language. After we had discussed that, he said that if you have any questions, I can ask. So I just asked another, like, how was his working experience, or how does he find Cognizant? Something very basic. He replied to it, and we were done with the HR within 10 minutes. I think it was less than 10 minutes. So yeah, like I mentioned, it was just a mere formality. And almost 5 to 6 days later, I got the result, and the verdict was that I got selected for the GenC Elevate profile. I personally found the procedure of Cognizant to be very smooth and interesting. So as for any pro tip, I think cracking the skill-based assessment is the main, challenge in this particular company. So try and perform good in the skill-based assessment, because it determines your selection for the next profile or for the Elevate profile. Try to, attempt all the questions in the coding round. Even if you are not able to pass all the test cases, try to, attempt as many as you can. And for the MCQs, try to have a good practice of the MCQs, because sometimes what happens that we run out of time, or we're not able to, recall what we have studied. So have a good practice. There are various resources available on the internet for the MCQs: GFG, IndiaBix, Face Prep, a lot of resources, so you can go through them. Prep Insta also, I personally used it a lot. Go through them and have a good knowledge about the web UI part and the DSA MCQs, and you're good to go. The interview is easy. Just have confidence and have faith in yourself, and you will be able to crack it. Okay, so if you have any questions or any doubts, you can comment down below. I'll be happy to reply them.